tape begins if you're listening to this. You've already seen the key card. A thin piece of plastic gray, worn at the edges. The kind of thing you forget in your pocket until it cuts your finger. But this one wasn't found in a pocket. It was found on a sidewalk 2 miles from the nearest motel at 214A, and still cold from the night air. Still clean, and it never should have been there. Case File 09, the key card. Tape continues. We're not going to tell this story like a timeline because this case doesn't feel like a straight line. It feels like a locked hallway with doors that don't open, with lights that flicker when you get too close. So we're going to rebuild it the only way investigators could, by following objects' sounds and the small mistakes people make when they think they have time. First object, the key card. It was discovered by a delivery driver finishing his last route. He noticed it because it reflected the street light like a tiny mirror. When he picked it up, he saw the words printed on the face. Ridgeway Motor Lodge Room 17. He didn't know what Ridgeway Motor Lodge was. Most locals didn't. It sat off the highway behind a gas station, half hidden by a billboard advertising cheap breakfast. A place you passed, a place you didn't notice. He turned the key card over. There was a smudge across the magnetic stripe, like a thumb had pressed hard. Not a normal smudge, a smear. He dropped it into his cup holder and drove on. By the time police saw it, that key card had already traveled farther than its owner ever did. Second object, the receipt. When detectives contacted the motel, the manager insisted no one had checked into room 17 that he said night. The room was vacant, but the system said otherwise. A receipt printed at 11:52 p.m. One night stay cash payment. No name, just a signature that looked like a line someone drew in a hurry. The manager said he didn't remember it, but he also said something else without realizing how heavy it was. He said the guest didn't want a room facing the parking lot. He asked for a room facing the back. The back of the motel was not a view. It was a service road, a narrow strip of gravel, tall weeds, and the kind of darkness that makes even a grown adult walk faster. Third object, the camera. The motel had an old security system, not the kind that gives sharp faces, the kind that gives you shapes. At 12 a.m., the camera caught a figure walking toward room 17. Not running, not sneaking. Walking like the room belonged to him. The figure held something in one hand. A plastic bag, maybe, or a bundle of clothes. The clip stuttered, jumped. Stuttered again, then the figure was gone behind the corner. At 12 a.m., another figure appeared. This time the movement was different, faster, uneven, as if the person was either hurt or being pulled by fear. The person reached room 17. The door opened, the person went inside, and the door shut. No one came out on camera again. That was the moment the case went cold in real time, because everything after that becomes absence. Fourth object, the sound. Room 16 was occupied that night. A trucker passing through, sleeping hard, the way people sleep when they've been awake for 2 days. He told police he woke up at around 12:40. Not because of a scream, not because of shouting, because of a sound that didn't fit the night. A single dull ouder, not sharp. Not glass, a heavy impact like something hitting a wall. He sat up in bed and listened. Nothing. No footsteps in the hallway. No doors slamming, no voices. Just the motel air conditioner kicking on and off, and the faint rattle of a soda machine down the hall. He went back to sleep, telling himself it was nothing. That's what people do in places like Ridgeway. They convince themselves the walls are thick enough to protect them from reality. Fifth object, the missing person. Her name was Elena Brooks. 23 years old, worked 2 jobs, kept her hair tied back, always smelled like laundry detergent and coffee. The last person to see her was her coworker. They clocked out together at 11 p.m. Elena said she was meeting someone. Didn't say who, didn't say where. Just, it's quick, I'll be home after. She never made it home at a M. Her phone pinged once, a location update near the highway. Then nothing, no more pings. No more calls, as if the phone had been turned off with intention. Sixth object, the hallway light. Detectives returned to the motel the next morning. They walked the second-floor corridor with the manager trailing behind them, sweating. Talking too much. Room 17 was locked. No answer. They used a master key. The door opened with a soft click. Inside the room looked normal too. Normal bed-made towels folded. No suitcase, no jacket on the chair. No sign anyone had slept there. The only thing out of place was the bathroom mirror. It was fogged, as if someone had run hot water recently, but the sink was dry, and on the counter there was a single hair tie. Black elastic, the kind Elena wore on her wrist every day. They photographed it, bagged it, and then they found the second keycard snapped in half, hidden behind the TV. That detail changes everything. Because motels do not give you 2 key cards unless you ask, and people don't snap key cards in half unless they're angry or trying to make sure the door can't be opened the usual way. Now the case stops being a "where did she go" story and becomes something else. It becomes a "who was in control" story. Seventh object, the back service road behind the motel. The service road was lined with tire marks. Most were old, most were meaningless, but one set was fresh, deep, as if a vehicle had accelerated hard on gravel. Detectives found a scrape on the curb, paint transferred in a thin line. Dark paint, possibly from an SUV, possibly from something else. The kind of clue that is almost a clue and almost is torture. Eighth object, the employee's lie. When police questioned the manager again, his story shifted. First, he said no one rented room 17. Then he admitted someone did, but insisted it was just a traveler. Then he said the traveler didn't have a car. Then he said the traveler might have had a car, but it didn't matter. People think lying protects them. Sometimes it does, sometimes it just tells you where to look. Detectives pulled phone records, found repeated calls between the manager and an unknown night short calls, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, like signals, like checkpoints. And then the unknown number went dead, burner phone behavior. Ninth object, the key card again. The key card found on the sidewalk wasn't just any card. It had a partial fingerprint on it. Not enough for a perfect match, but enough to narrow down a type of touch. A thumb pressed hard, sliding in panic. That's why the smear looked wrong. It wasn't casual, it was desperation. The driver who found it said he'd dish his hands for an hour after he picked it up because the plastic felt wrong. Too cold, too clean. like it had been removed from a person who didn't get to keep it. 10th object, the open question. Investigators never found Alina. No confirmed sighting after 11:18 p.m. No verified camera footage outside the motel. No bank activity, nothing that modern life usually leaves behind. Only objects: a hair tie, a snapped key card, a receipt with no name, and a key card on a sidewalk 2 miles away. Which means one of two things. Either the key card fell during a rushed escape, or someone placed it there. Not by accident, but as a message, a breadcrumb, a quiet kind of cruelty that says, "You can follow this, but you'll never catch me." Tape ends. If you were the investigator, where would you focus room 17? The manager, the service road, or the key card itself? Because sometimes the smallest object in the case is not evidence. Sometimes it's a signature, a habit, a calling card. What do you think happened to Elena Brooks? Leave your theory in the comments.